Hey everyone, welcome to Ludicrous Feed Live. You are with Tom. I'm your host this evening, and have we got an absolute cracker of a show for you this evening, Wednesday, 18th of October 2023. We are starting a little bit early this evening, just get the intros and sponsorship call outs a little bit out of the way so we can have our special guest tonight, of course, Chris Vanderstock, the man at the moment who is very much involved in today's landmark High Court ruling concerning the Victorian zero emissions tax. And we will speak to him very shortly. But first, let's introduce our regular guests. As always, we have Hollywood Riz from Carloop, and of course, Rahul Prasad. Gentlemen, so nice to see you both. Riz, welcome back. Welcome back to planet Earth. How are you feeling today?
Look, short-lived career in Alexandria, Sydney, but yeah, I'm back to build everyone's dreams here tonight. But most importantly, we've got a very special guest coming up, and yeah, good to see you, Rahul, and great live stream last night, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. We had 404 live viewers at one stage. So thank you everyone who joined us last night. We had such a great turnout and such good engagement as well during the stream. Rahul, thanks so much for joining us last night. What a good night, huh?
Evening, Tom. Evening, Riz. How is that Hollywood Walk of Fame star going, Hollywood Riz? Yeah, but great work on the live stream and the pricing as well with BYD as well. And yeah, fantastic engagement from our audience last night, and welcome back this evening as well. And yeah, what better way to start tonight's stream than knowing that Victoria is out of the EV backwaters finally.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to chat to Chris Vanderstock very shortly when he comes on live. But let's thank our sponsors as always. Very much thanks to our sponsors, Carloop, Wallbox, and Evee for sponsoring the Ludicrous Feed live stream. For discount codes from Wallbox and Evee, check out our video description below. We've got nice little discount codes for you if you want to get a Wallbox wall connector or a rental from Evee. All right, well, let's introduce what we're talking about tonight real quick. So let's add this X onto the screen, and there he is himself, Chris's X. He says, yes, the High Court of Australia has ruled that Victoria's zero and low emissions vehicle tax is unconstitutional. The world's worst EV policy is gone. This is a key moment for all Australians, and I hope that everyone is celebrating right now, as I'm sure Chris is celebrating at the moment. So congratulations, Chris. Congratulations, all Victorians, and really, it's a win for all Australians, really, gents, because not only does it apply to Victoria, but as Chris will probably explain to us, this will probably apply also to any future states that want to try to implement anything like this moving forward. And here, below the Chris's X right here is, Nash, our good friend Nash, is basically showing how we're all feeling right now. I'm very excited to see Chris's X, and speaking of which, we might invite him on the stream right now. Here he is, the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Chris Vanderstock onto the stream. Chris,
hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Yourself? Thanks, Tom. Hey, Riz. Hey, Rahul. We're all good.
To start with, Chris, I just want to say congratulations. Well done on behalf of all of us, all Australians who drive EVs and future Australians who are going to drive EVs. This is a great win for all of us.
Definitely is. And, that's a key point there, that even though some people think it only affects Victorians, it's like, no, it actually has ramifications for all Australians. And this tax is thankfully now gone. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So, Chris, I want you to run us through the timeline here. Just pretend we don't know anything about what happened today. When did this all start? What was the trigger? What was the problem? And how did this all begin?
Yeah, sure. Look, it started, I think, in late 2020, and then it became really apparent in March 2021, where Tim Pallas was floating around this idea of introducing a zero and low emission vehicle tax for people who have battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. And it's going to be charged on a per kilometer basis. And this is, remembering in 2021, at that period, this is in the midst of COVID. And it was very much rushed through, and there was zero consultation, and there was a lot of media key lines around, you don't pay for your fair share of roads, and this is how you are going to pay for this. And unfortunately, within 3 months, which is extraordinary, very short amount of time for a tax or any policy to be implemented, it came into effect. So by July 2021, it became real, and that meant that moving forwards, the first year of operation, it was 2.5 cents per kilometre for battery electric vehicles, and for plug-in hybrids, it was 2 cents. That's linked to inflation. So every financial year, July 1, it increases. And so we're now at 2.8 cents for EVs, and for plug-in hybrids, it's now at, I want to say 2.3 cents or something like that. Basically, a 12% increase since its inception. And how it works is that, at the start of your registration, you do a declaration. And then at the end of the registration year, that's how you do it, because in Victoria, we can do it quarterly. So it operates both ways anyway. You submit to VicRoads through the website that you've did this many kilometres, and you have photographic evidence to support that, to substantiate it. And based upon that, they calculate this fee. And it's not in any way sensitive to whether or not you've done travel outside of the state. So when the legislation was in the upper house being talked up and basically voted through with almost no opposition whatsoever, all of them were saying this usual line about, well, you don't pay for your fair share of roads, and this is how we're going to address this. And it's kind of like, so when I use my electric vehicle outside of Victoria, I'm using New South Wales roads, Queensland roads, you name it. But that money goes back to us, to Victoria. And then the case that many people have reached out to me to say that for them, they're in a border town like Albury-Wodonga, and they work in New South Wales. So they're commuting backwards and forwards into a state that doesn't have this charge, yet the monies flow back to Victoria. Another great example about how poor this legislation is that the people who drive plug-in hybrid vehicles, they've got a little tiny battery, and they can't demonstrate what they did on that battery versus what was done on petrol and diesel. Appreciating those guys, they're filling up with, those fossil fuels, and they're paying fuel excise as well as GST on that, plus this tax. So the Victorian Ombudsman, in her report, noted that people who have been charged this tax were travelling through Central Australia, where there was no electricity, and they used fuel. They asked for exemption, but they were never actually granted that they had to pay this tax. So the impulse, the insult, the unfairness of this all really is apparent in this tax, and that we had this piecemeal policy created by Victoria, rushed through legislation and introduced to Victorian drivers, and other states and territories were like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. That's a great idea. Let's do this. So for myself, behind the scenes, I'd already been talking with the lawyers and got in contact with Kath, and we were thinking about how this can be addressed. And the lawyers were like, well, this is a consumption tax. This is actually an excise, because the more kilometers you do in your electric vehicle, the more you pay. And there's been precedents before with HAR versus New South Wales. That's a previous High Court case. And also capital duplicators versus New South Wales. There were other ones, but they were basically the two main tenets that were talked up time and time again in the High Court proceedings. And they were like, I think we can defeat this, because basically the more you use your device, the more you consume of it, the more you pay. And so thankfully, the High Court judges agree with us, and it's been ruled unconstitutional. So there you go, 3-minute version.
Oh, that's great, Chris. No, that's a great summary. So in summary, I guess the decision to call this unconstitutional was because it's an excise rather than a tax, which must be imposed on by a federal government rather than a state government. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yes. Yep. And so what some people haven't appreciated was that, not in my backyard, that other states and territories actually were in support of Victoria, the defendant. And the technical term is called interveners. And all the other states and territories actually submitted to the High Court of Australia the arguments, law, as to why this should prevail, why Victoria is what they were doing was correct. They also went to the High Court of Australia with all the barristers and silks, and they presented oral argument as to why this should be in support of Victoria. So thinking about South Australia, for instance, when they repealed the EV tax over there, and they were still actually in support of it. And that's because the states and territories want to have this new tax base in which to charge people, not for roads. And that's come out in the wash from the Victorian Ombudsman, by the way, that they don't know where this money goes to. It just goes to consolidated revenues. It doesn't go to actual roads, unlike what Tim Pallas has said. And it's not actually in any way, shape or form tracked. So there's some real complications in that space, can I tell you?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. New South Wales, our state was going to enact a tax in 2027 based off Victoria's experience. And now that it's been, ruled unconstitutional, it's probably going to be repealed, I would have thought. Is that the sort of understanding that other states cannot proceed with this now?
Yeah, basically. Yep. So the term that I like to use is that similar schemes, right? So look, other states and territories could imagine up something that is similar but not the same and still do it potentially. But the precedent's now been set that if you charge on a per kilometre basis for someone who's using a product, and that was debated a lot, what is a product? When does excise start and where does it stop? Is the vehicle the thing we're taxing here? Or is it the kilometres that we're taxing here? Or is it the driver that we are taxing here? This was debated for 3 days in the High Court of Australia, and it was a roller coaster ride for myself and Kath as lay people who were fortunate enough to have legal counsel there to advise us as to, well, you know what, actually, that was pretty good what just happened there. And then you come out of another section, you're like, that went really well, right? And the lawyers are like, no. And so it was nerve-wracking to beyond compare. And then thankfully, after the hearing was done, I just figured, you know what, our legal team headed by Ron Merkel did a great job. And it is just what it is. And in fact, actually, I want to show you something because people don't realize this behind me. There's something significant there. Hang on.
What could it be? Oh, he's got a frame.
This has been here for months. This is the actual legal team. And yeah, so there I am in my little white little number. And it's hard to say the left or right of your screen. I want to say it's to the left of your screen. It's a bit of a mixture, actually. So you can see the silks with Ron, who's the first chap on the left in the silk. And then there's David Barden. He's the principal lawyer, equity generation lawyers. And that's been back behind me for the last 6 months. And it's it's a bit of history. It's a bit of history.
Oh, it's 100% it's history, Chris. So well done.
It is.
And we really appreciate all the efforts you and the team have put in. I mean, I want to go from the beginning. Like, did you think you guys were going to win from the very beginning, or was it sort of 50-50 most of the time?
Oh, no, we didn't know. It was kind of uncharted territory. It's been 25 years since a similar case has been heard by the High Court of Australia, and that was Ha versus New South Wales. And that was an omni case involving tobacco and alcohol in New South Wales, where they used to tax it. And then the High Court declared that, you can't tax something that's consumed. And so the more you smoke, the more you drink, the more you pay. And so that was successfully upheld for Ha, and New South Wales lost out. During the court proceedings, I learned something about GST. It was actually based upon a little bit of legislative law on the Constitution and the taxation base, the powers that be, the powers within the Constitution rather, and who can charge what. Came out of a High Court case. And in today's precedent, we've actually, the High Court has overturned a previous case from more than 49 years ago. It was someone versus Tasmania. So that's big. In the High Court case, quite a few times, Chief Justice Kevin, she would warn both parties that, okay, well, what you are arguing here is actually you're citing law, good law. So like, let's say capital duplicators versus New South Wales. Oh, ACC rather. So you're citing good law here and you want to throw out that law. You don't want to do that. That is good law. And she stressed that a few times that, if you undo some previous precedents, it has widespread ramifications. So I'm not yet completely across what the Tasmanian case law was about, but nonetheless, they've actually opened that and they've actually thrown out their previous suggestions around that.
Yep. Let's talk a bit about funding now. So, you obviously crowdfunded some of the legal costs, myself included. I helped you along the way, and a lot of the viewers did too. We're getting a lot of thanks in the comments, by the way. So Thank you everyone for helping Chris and Kath and everyone else in the team.
Yep.
What are the compensation rules around this? Will your legal costs be refunded at all?
Yes. Well, I think they're going to be paid, not refunded. They're going to be paid by Victoria.
Paid, yeah.
So it's been ascribed against Victoria, and that was always our fear going in, that the stakes are high here. Getting to the court costs us more than $50,000, and sitting days are $20,000 per day.
Wow.
So it's substantial. And I'm very grateful that the High Court has ruled in our favour and that we don't have to face that cost now, because we would have been responsible for not only our own legal counsel, but also for Victoria's. That room, by the way, like if you see my video that I posted today, if you've ever been to the High Court of Australia, you understand the room itself. There was 3 lines of desks, and they're all filled with barristers. And you're just thinking, this is a very expensive room in here. This is a very expensive room in here. And so the lesson has been that, well, obviously Victoria in this instance probably should have used more caution as to what they were doing and how they did it. And the way in which they went around it was poorly thought out, poorly administered, just bad. And, it was called the world's worst EV policy for good reason.
Yeah, exactly. As you keep saying, it's a piecemeal policy, thought up on the run, terrible policy. And hope you don't mind me saying, Chris, you are a full-time healthcare worker. You are not, you're not doing nothing most of your day. You are a busy man. Like, how many hours can you even count?
Today I was clinical, so yes, agreed.
How many hours can you even count that you spent on this?
Oh,
countless?
Too many. Like, I've been covering it since, really, when there was talk about it in 2020. I've done a good maybe 10 stories on my own channel about it. The legal team's done a huge amount of work. They're the ones who put together all the arguments. And when you watch them presenting, they're dancing around and they're jumping backwards and forwards between different cases, and they're citing law and the philosophy of law and the meaning of a word. And they debate about that word for quite a while. And, it's for me, this has always just been about the benefits that electric vehicles bring. And I would love to go to court and argue that. And that, they bring environmental benefits, they bring health benefits, they quieter communities, they're decarbonizing our world. Let's have that conversation. But instead, what does Victoria do? They're like, let's just tax these guys because they're easy targets, they're a little minority. They did this in the future when the majority of road users were electric vehicle owners. Everyone will be up in arms going, how dare you? What a dumb system. You're charging me for every kilometer traveled, but yet you can't prove what I did. And then they also index it with inflation. So they average your kilometers across a year. And then let's say you're overseas having an awesome holiday and you can't do that declaration. They're going to charge you 37 kilometers per day that you don't declare. So this is not how you do a road user charge. It really isn't.
And I've had viewers share with me, Victorians who've shared 25% of their tax was actually travelled interstate in New South Wales or South Australia or whatever. So as you said, it just doesn't make sense for Victoria to tax kilometres driven elsewhere. It's crazy.
Exactly right. Yep. So I'm hoping now that, obviously this has given the federal government the ability, the Commonwealth, to actually introduce a similar charge, but I hope it doesn't look anything like this.
Yep.
And the conversation should be a lot more about we've got to do this fairly, equitably for everybody, and carrot and stick. Okay, so keep your fuel excise, keep your GST on the fuel, double tax people like we are. But conversely, let's talk about by emissions. So the people who buy the gas guzzling V8, cab ute truck that we see, the Dodge Rams and things like that. I love to see them taxed at a crazy amount, like what we see in New Zealand. They've got the fee-based system. If you have one of those sort of vehicles over there, you're paying $3,000-$4,000 more than someone who's got a modest car, let alone somebody who's got a battery electric car. So you've got this spectrum. You've got the spectrum, and this is what we've got to do. We've got to encourage people to EVs and out of those dirty gas guzzlers.
Yep, 100%. I also know too in the federal court statement here that the tax affects ZLEVs or zero emission vehicles as articles of commerce, including because of its tendency to affect demand for EVs. And even the High Court, appreciated that as well. That the tax was a negative impact on EVs. So
yeah,
there you go.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay, so what's next, Chris? Are you going to be advocating for any more things, or you're done?
Well, in terms of legal stuff, I'm done. I'm exhausted. It was interesting, and it was good having a front row seat and having that privileged access to some very clever minds. But no, I'll still continue advocating, and I'd like to get in Chris Bowen's ear now and help shape the future electric vehicle policy in Australia. I'd like to see emission standards, actual emission policy rather, fuel standards, and an internal combustion engine ban. And yeah, they want to do a road user charge. Just don't do it like this. Do it fair and equity for everybody.
Yep, fantastic. Riz, Rahul, any questions for Chris?
Chris, I had the pleasure of meeting or catching up with Kath over the weekend at a sustainability expo, and she was nervous. There was, I'm sure both of you have gone through this roller coaster over the last 6 months or so, and even longer, as you said, when you first started. Yeah. Do you feel that, I know Tom just asked earlier what's next, but do you feel that if someone like Chris Bowen, the least they can do is talk to people like yourself and Kath and get an understanding and sort of what EV owners would like, do you think that would be the right step forward, or do you think that each state and territory needs to go and do their homework and then approach people like yourself and Kath and actually sit down and let's do this? Because I think we need a national approach to this, not just it's rushed out. Some of the big consultants would have given this advice to Victorian government. They've just taken it as gospel and put it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, Riz, you're right. There's a bit of both that we need here. We need our Victorian government and our local councils to be actually listening to the concerns of residents. We've had some good changes in the recent legislation recently, like Australia-wide, where new apartments need to be provisioned for EV charging, say. But that said, it's still not easy for people who've got, current buildings. We need more EV charging infrastructure, particularly for apartment areas where they're quite densely populated. How are those people going to charge their EVs? I've got friends on that very issue right now. But yeah, definitely we need a federal approach, something that actually mimics what we're seeing successfully done in countries like Norway. New Zealand's still a very good example. They're leading us. We're still laggards in this territory, and this tax was definitely a disincentive to it. And the Australian government, they could address the climate crisis whereby vehicle emissions make up almost 20% of our CO2 impact. So how do you do that? You have a green grid, which we're going for. We're going to get there 2025, 2026, depends who you ask with AMO. And then conversely, go battery electric. And we've got zero tailpipe emissions, no particulate matter going into our lungs, causing lung damage, asthma, heart damage, you name it. There's so many reasons to get away from internal combustion engine vehicles, let alone subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. Like, goodbye. Let's just kiss those guys goodbye and stop subsidizing them. And every day today I've done like about 5 interviews, and they've always come to the thing about you're not paying your fair share of road user fees, right? You're not paying for road infrastructure. And I'm like, well, no, if you pay taxes, you pay for roads, income tax, GST, stamp duty, council rates. In fact, councils actually do 90% of our roads. If you have done that and you don't even drive a car, you've paid for roads. So stop having this thing around fuel excise paying for roads. It does not. It subsidizes fuel companies, and it keeps cars with diesel and petrol going. And so, let's have that conversation, and let's see what we can do to actually, encourage people to EVs and discourage them from getting those, things that are not good for anybody.
Yeah,
we are mute.
Tom.
Yep. You're on mute, Tom.
Sorry, guys. We've had people on socials trying to get information from the Victorian government, Freedom of Information Act, trying to get info on where the money's going, what exactly it's used for. Nothing, right? Nothing, nada.
No.
So, no, you're right, Chris. We do need a federal approach, and obviously, it's got to come from the federal government for sure.
Definitely. And I think all I'll do if I can get an opportunity to meet with Chris Bowen is to, ask what he's doing and where he's going, all that sort of stuff. And then conversely, if it ever comes up about a road user charge, it's like, just look to the Victorian Ombudsman's report. Very beautifully detailed, good real world examples, because anecdotally I can share with you a lot of stories about people who have been have had their registration cancelled without them even knowing about it, about doing that massive around Australia trip and requesting for portions of that trip to actually be exempt from it because it's on a private road, like a massive, farm in the outback. But no, VicRoads has used its power unfairly, and they've actually had the ability to do a concession. But as in the Victorian Ombudsman report, she found that they don't exercise that properly and inconsistently. And this has been I think a good lesson for Tim Pallas, who, by the way, I hope you're watching. Hi. I saw your interview today, Tim, and I did not ever get an electric vehicle subsidy in my life. And so his statement today, I got really angry when I saw that. It was like, he was asked by a reporter, are they going to get their money back? And he said, basically, not in hell. No way. You think I'm going to get about $3,000 back from them for the EV subsidy that we gave them? It's like, Tim, he doesn't get it. It's just a tax grab.
He's conflating the two. Yeah.
Oh, it's a tax grab.
Yeah. Back on the VicRoads and the actual charge itself. So let's read this statement here. I'm sure a lot of you got the email today from VicRoads. Dear customer, the High Court has handed down its decision in relation to the Victorian low emissions vehicle road user charge. Given the complexity, it may take some time to work through what this means for you. We thank you for your patience. We're committed to continuing to inform customers what the decision means for them and the next steps we will take. Please note, if you're a business customer, works for a fleet manager, you advise them if you have any ZL EV vehicles which may be impacted. Motorists who are due to renew their zero low emission vehicle registration should continue to do so. We'll continue to advise customers, etc., for the time being. Gents, all through you from Victoria, if your rego's up, do you advise to keep paying for now?
Yeah, that's the advice from my legal counsel. That's just because, again, the judgment is pretty final, right? So it's around that, well, from today, constitutionally, it's invalid. They can't charge it. So I think you're pretty safe. I think you are. Don't quote me on this one. You're pretty safe and actually say, well, you know what? From this day forward, it's not due. But let's say you've already had that invoice from VicRoads, and like myself, I got a declaration due in a few days. When you've done that, you've got 2 weeks to pay it. And so I hope by then this will all get sorted out. And I think the premise behind this, you can read it two ways, which is kind of pointed out to by Scotty, one of my Patreons. First up, you notice the line there where it actually says, excuse me, you should actually continue to pay your registration. So motorists are due to renew their zero and low emission vehicle registration should continue to do so.
Interesting.
So car registration is quite different from the ZLEV charge and the ZLEV tax. Two different things entirely. So poor choice of words, I think, on VicRoads. I think there's a bit of a typo on their end, a bit of a grammatical error. They probably should have used the same term of ZLEV charge if they want to continue trying to collect monies where they probably shouldn't be. Probably shouldn't be. But that said, anybody who has a declaration, just know that they give you a good 1 month notice, then they give you a 2 week notice, and it always seems like it's urgent, it's due yesterday. So I tell everybody who's ever asked me, I said, delay it to the last possible day. And then when you've done that, you've got 2 weeks to pay after that. So again, delay that to the very end. And I hope by then VicRoads would have had advice from the Minister for Transport and Treasury that, yes, they can't collect this fee anymore. But then the next question is, do we get a refund? And the way in which we pose the question to the High Court of Australia, it could be interpreted in one of two ways. Well, first up, that this ZLEV charge is actually unconstitutional. Now, is that from today, or was that when the law became in for Victoria? And my take on it is the second one. And I'm hopeful that actually, we should get refunds.
Okay.
Should.
Are there any further court cases to try and get that money back, or no? This is it. This is done.
Not to my knowledge, no. But it won't be me. I can tell you that. I'm done.
No, fair enough.
I'll join a class action, but that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, cool. Well, Chris, the last question I have, the most important one is, how are you celebrating tonight? What's on the agenda?
I've already had 2 glasses of champagne, and we had some very yummy Thai takeaways. Glamorous evening.
Oh no, the best.
Yeah,
Well, look,
exactly.
you've had a long day. Don't want to take up too much of your time. There's a lot of support for you on the live stream, and anybody who wants extra support to Chris, go join his YouTube channel, go subscribe, send him a shout out. If you see him on the street, shake his hand, give him a pat on the back. He really deserves it. He's done a great deal of work on your behalf as Evee owners and potential Evee owners in Victoria and potentially for the rest of Australia as well. So, Chris, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of everyone tonight.
Thanks very much, Tom, and yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, and yes, onwards and upwards. Let's go clean and green and be smart about it.
That's it. And Chris,
Yeah.
you got a Patreon page as well?
I do, yeah, and also Kofi. Look me up. I like my coffee.
There you go. Lots of ways to support Chris. Thanks, Chris. I won't take up too much of
Cool.
your time. Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Tom. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Take care.
Yeah.
Wow, gents, what a huge day. And honestly, I'm blown away by how much work Chris has done in the background here.
Yeah, it's and it's for pretty much every driver, not only Victorians, but everyone pretty much could be in the same boat. Current owners, future owners could have been in that same position as well. I guess one question that I forgot to ask Chris was what happens to those that have an Evee that have never paid anything.
Unreliable.
Does that mean that because it slipped through VicRoads' system, like most other things, they have no idea which car is an Evee and which one isn't? And the interesting, I guess the way I put it, I have 2 Teslas. One I pay a road user charge for, and the other I don't. Now, it's pretty straightforward that a Tesla is an Evee. But then VicRoads' system, for whatever reason, doesn't do anything on that. So I hope everyone that's paid, there is some sort of ruling that VicRoads has to pay them back, because when Victorian government is forced to pay people, they do it, even if it's their own cause, like our Commonwealth Games, which we paid hundreds of millions of dollars for, so they can pay hundreds of millions of dollars back to drivers that have been wrongfully charged, and actually make it aligned with what their long-term goals are, which is to reduce our transport emissions. And putting a tax on it does not help with that.
No, that's right. Got some comments asking me to post Chris's links. So yeah, they're already in the video description. His channel links, his YouTube, his X link as well. I'll find his Ko-fi link and Patreon link as well. So yeah, make sure you give a shout out to Chris. He's done a lot of hard work behind the scenes for all of us here. So yeah, great work, Chris. And I'm sure we'll hear some more of the fallout in coming days as well, and all the analysis too. Well done.
I don't know whether Chris is aware, but yeah, I think his phone's going to blow up if it hasn't already blown up with loads of radio, TV, media, social media as well. So yeah, Chris, great that you've had the 2 glasses of champagne and you've had your dinner. Get a good night's rest, because on tomorrow morning onwards, you probably want to hire a PR agent and move from home into a Sofitel or the Mandarin Oriental, and stay on incognito for a week or so.
Yes, he's going to be a busy man. I think he's already made worldwide news. Someone was saying so. Yeah, it's well deserved too. He sounds like he's answered a lot of the questions already, and that we're very thankful that he's come on to answer or to talk to us, and to really, we're here to support him really, and you can see on the stream, on the chat, there's a lot of support for Chris tonight, so that's great. And that's a question, Gaffer. Like, how much did Vic collect? We don't know. Riz, right? You've tried looking as well. We just don't know how much Victoria's collected in this time.
No, they were going to charge me 60 grand to get an external contractor to look at which system has which information. And I'm like, I'm not paying you to do your job, which you should have done properly. It's the external contractors, aka consulting companies, that have put this proposal forward to Victorian government, and people like Tim Pallas have happily accepted it, and has gone out and charged everybody, and now they pay the price for it. So yeah, nobody really knows, and it just means the Victorian government will end up spending millions of taxpayers' money trying to get lawyers and others to figure out how much they've actually paid, because their whole system was, let's say, not so good to begin with. So either way, even if we don't pay the excise or the road user surcharge, we will be paying for them to sort their house out.
Yep, that's crazy, really. All right, everyone, well, let's take a slight break. And just again, thank you to our sponsors tonight on the live stream, Carloop, Warbox, and Evee. Thank you so much for supporting Ludicrous Feed. And yeah, 216 viewers I can see already tonight. So a huge turnout in support of Chris. And also, I guess, to reflect on last night's stream, Riz Akhtar, Hollywood Riz, has graced us with his presence again. Well, since last night. I mean, Riz, you know, how was that Walk of Fame in Sydney?
It was short-lived. I was on for a whole of 30 seconds, and then Danica and Luke Todd said, "Well, you gotta step off." So I did, and then the first thing I did was pulled out my phone and get on the live stream, because that's where it was all happening. So it was great to see everybody, and sorry I couldn't reveal the full price at that time, although we did a rehearsal prior to that, and I was sort of gobsmacked when Luke first disclosed the price, because it is a lot of car for the money. Anyone that's looking for a larger sort of a sedan for an ICE car comparison would be once upon a time looking at a Kia Stinger or like a sporty large sedan. This is similar, but I think it was short-lived, but I was happy to be back on the stream, trying to engage in whatever way before this sort of brought me back on for another 30 seconds before I was booted off, and that was the end of my career.
Yeah, look, it was a panel of experts, Riz, like you and Danny Tai, like well deserved. You guys spoke very well, and look, I've got to say, Luke actually sold it very well as well. We sort of speculated, Rahul and I. By the way, it was a great party last night with everyone joining us. 404 viewers. We had a great time. It's like watching sport with mates, isn't it? It's fantastic. But how many, Riz, how many do you think pre-orders wise? How many can they get in the first 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is?
Look, realistically speaking, with the Dolphin, the number being thrown around was sort of around 1,000. I think if they got more than 500 orders for this overnight, then in 24 hours they should be pretty happy, because sedans aren't everyone's cup of tea, and particularly larger sedans in particular are just not something that many people are interested in. But yeah, I'd say around 500, particularly for the base model, because that is well priced, especially those that are in states like New South Wales, where you have 2 and a bit months to order one and hopefully be able to get your rebate on at least, I think, dynamic, premium, and possibly even performance. I'm not sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, the performance is $48. I kid you not, $48 over the threshold. So unfortunately, that doesn't qualify. But certainly, dynamic and premium will get you that $3,000 off if you order now and before the 1st of January. So Riz, you heard the price pretty early, as you said. You were shocked, and we tried to log on as soon as Luke said 7:45 p.m. last night, and the website was just terrible. So it took us a little while to get on, which means it was probably inundated with people trying to get on and order.
Mm-hmm.
And Riz, at one point, I remember you saying it was pretty much like a Mercedes. I mean, do you stand by that? Is it as good as that?
Look, I as you guys know, I was sort of in the EQE, and Tom, I picked you up in that when we went for the Melbourne EV show. I felt it was as plushy as the Mercedes, particularly the seats and the general interior trim. Obviously, I haven't driven this car, so we can't possibly know what it's like to drive. But given the Mercedes was based on, I think, a bit of a nice platform, and it just wasn't well put together, I think this car will be a good car. It would definitely be better put together than the Mercedes EQB and the EQA. And it'd be very close to the EQE in terms of the interior quality.
Yeah, I got to say, Riz, when you picked me up, I thought, it's interesting for the money you pay in the Mercedes EQE. But having seen the Seal live, I got to say, the quality is pretty good. And this is based on the 3.0 platform as well. So we should expect an improvement from the Atto 3 for sure. And yes, those who follow me on X, I did order a premium last night or this morning. So deliveries are supposed to be in December 2023, Jan 2024. So we'll see whether we can get a test drive beforehand for the channel. So it should be good. And Robin Jules saying we got a call from the BYD today, Riz, for the Dolphins. So hey, that's great, Robin Jules. Fantastic. And yes, that's the question I was going to ask. Is Luke didn't take you for a spin after the show last night?
No, I think he was too starstruck. There were too many people around him. He did say some interesting things after the launch stream that they had, and this is around the models that are coming up after the Seal. So he sort of said that in the first 18 months we will have sort of launched and revealed prices of and possibly landed 3 electric vehicles. So I think they're sort of timing it from June, July when they first got the BYD Atto 3s on the road. So that's the Atto 3, the Dolphin, and now the Seal.
Mm.
And then he said next year, basically the plan is to bring 2 new models into the market.
Seal U, maybe? SUV Seal?
Yeah. And also the Ute.
Oh, the Ute. I was going to say Seagull, but the Ute's even better.
Yeah, so
Nice.
what they've sort of said is that the first half they will aim to bring the Seal U or the Song Plus, whatever it's based off. And then there will be the Ute second half of next year.
Mm. What really impressed me about the Seal 2 was the long range premium, which is the one I ordered, has got an 82 kilowatt hour LFP battery. That's impressive. I mean, at the moment, the Tesla vehicles, only the stock standard rear wheel drive vehicles have LFP in 60 kilowatt hours, but I don't think we've ever seen a LFP battery this big, Riz and Rahul, at the moment. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, in a particularly in a passenger car. I think the Mercedes and these guys, some of them use the 111 kilowatt hour battery, but I'm pretty sure the NMC packs. So yeah, large BYD blade battery. We also have to think that BYD makes a lot of buses, and in their buses they would be using their blade batteries as well, from what I can tell, which would be a 250 kilowatt hour battery pack. So yeah, I think it's a lot of car for the money. I think once they can land it and people get to experience it, if what they claim turns out to be true, that it is a sporty large sedan, then there'll be a lot of and it's a rear wheel drive car, unless you get the all wheel drive model, but it is going to be a fun sort of sedan in a market which in Australia we don't always appreciate large sedans. And Tom, you've had the Model S, you know what it's like.
Yeah, and that's driving a sedan is fantastic. Lower to the ground, probably better rounding corners and handling things like that. So lots to love about sedans. Thank you, Mike, for joining our YouTube channel on Ludicrous Feed. Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. And so that is the BYD Seal as well. So thanks, Riz, for that. Great to have you on the inside there last night at Alexandria in Sydney.
No worries.
Thank you. And yeah, Scotty's asking performance uses which battery chemistry? Yeah, it's the BYD blade again, so it's going to be LFP for performance as well. Cool. All right. Someone's saying I've got more cars than the Saudi prince. Yeah, well, do it for you guys. What can I say?
I think Tom is the Saudi prince on this live stream. So
I went for the.
I read a couple of comments on X regarding the Seal that some people were saying, "Oh, I paid the extra $5,000 or so to get a Tesla Model 3," but yeah, we've got to understand and appreciate that it's not for everyone. The Tesla Model 3. I think Tom and I talked about this on the stream as well last night, that some of the familiarity around the interior in the Seal is going to appeal to some of the older demographics who are going to be looking at buying an EV for the first time. The experience of going into BYD Megastore in Alexandria is also going to be appealing to them as well, because they get to experience it firsthand, sort of touch, look, see as well. And the market for EVs in Australia being so sort of small at the moment. I think we're looking at about 8, 9%, 10%. Sure, Tesla is first by a million miles, but let's not forget that globally, BYD have sold, I think, up to 2 million vehicles, probably more coming in the next year or so. And there's always space for more competitors in that market as well.
Yeah, exactly, Rahul. Like, Tesla, like Apple, is not going to have 100% penetration in the market. It's just impossible. Very few products have in this world. So we've got to, appreciate that some people want the Samsung of EVs, and that's probably going to be BYD, MG. Other vehicles will take up the rest of the market share. So I'm here for you guys. BYD is still top 2 brands in Australia. I'll test it for you, documented to excruciating detail, as I've said before. So stay tuned on the channel. We'll find out exactly what it is like to own a BYD in Australia, because I don't think there's that many. There's not that much documentation, Riz, that I can see. From a reality sort of real life kind of point of view at the moment for BYD.
No, particularly not. And I think this is one of the challenges that any new brand faces, which is getting people to use it and see it, and people need to be inspired by the product. And I guess someone like yourself, Tom, who gets to drive quite a few different electric vehicles, people value what you have to say. And I think once you get behind the wheel of one, then a lot of people would actually be inspired to actually go to the, one of their showrooms and actually have a look and take one for a test drive. And if that means that's one other person that's inspired to make the switch to an electric car, then that's only a good thing.
As Tassie EV1 says, yeah, Tesla Beyond, which is what he started life as, sometimes now as Hyundai Beyond, Kia Beyond. So if you've got a name for me driving a BYD, let me know. I'm thinking maybe Tom YD. Change my name to Bob maybe, or Brian, BYD Brian, or whatever. So let me know. Suggestions are welcome. Question for me from Scotty, legitimate one. Are you satisfied with the scheduled service intervals and costs? Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to wear it. And I'm here for you. I'm going to document exactly what is on that invoice, what I'm paying for at a scheduled service. So that's fine. I'll deal with that. I think that's part of the hybrid model, isn't it, gents? It keeps the costs down initially for BYD. They've got this dealership/servicing model. And BYD isn't unique. Other brands too, Hyundai, Kia, they've got a servicing schedule too. So Tesla's actually the odd one out at the moment.
Well, I think the other thing as well, yesterday they quickly touched on this, which is the exclusive ownership and membership program, Tom. And I think one of the perks could be having a drag race in your Seal with Tim Cahill. And if that's on offer, I think I'd buy a Seal as well, just to give it a go.
I think I've got a better chance in the car than like putting some soccer boots on. So that's fine. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, I was going to say the referral program looks very interesting. So I want to see what the details are moving forward of that. Thomas Coates says having the test drive of the Dolphin on the weekend, and that's what got me over the line to put my deposit down yesterday. So fantastic. Good to see that they're allowing test drives of the Dolphin. That's good. Not many journalists have covered a test drive just yet in Australia for the Dolphin that I can see.
No.
I think one of the things with this Seal is also going to be for BYD. Great presentation last night. Unfortunately, obviously, the website crashed. Good that it came back online. But if they're promising December 2023 deliveries, they better have the cars in the country. And I think Luke obviously mentioned that as well, that they did see the cars that are destined for Australia being made in the factory. Obviously felt that deliveries should start in December 2023 as well. So just looking at that, I think BYD going from here with the Seal, great job with the intro of that last night and the pricing as well, and the specs and the variants. They just need to deliver on that delivery date. Riz, one new pair of runners catch the delivery of the Seal.
Look, I think I might use Tim Cahill's used boots, because that way at least I know they're proven. So I reckon we'll have to have a look at that. I think BYD as a brand, in our EV community, a lot of us know about it. We talk about it. And interesting story. So yesterday I landed at Sydney Airport, heading to Alexandria. Get off. walk across the pedestrian towards an Uber to get an Uber Green. I see one of those electric buses, the blue buses that you see at Sydney Airport. Apparently, it's all BYD. Then get to the little Uber rank there, book my Uber Green, and a BYD Atto 3 comes to pick me up. And I was in the back, and he was so comfortable. And he dropped me pretty close to the front at Alexandria at their mega store. And it's, the cars are getting around. And I asked him, I said, hey, how long have you had it for? And the driver was very nice. And he said, hey, 3 months. I basically walked into their Sutherland showroom or whatever it was, 10 minutes. Didn't even get to test drive it. I sat in the car and I said, this is what I want. And they delivered it in a couple of days. So, someone who's had 3 months of ownership, who's already driving it to make a living out of it, it says big. They have confidence in that. And there's a lot more of those vehicles getting around.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of Atto 3s, actually. There's one in my neighborhood. I can hear every time it starts up. You hear the little hum that starts up. It is quite loud, to be honest. Scotty asks, what communication has BYD sent via email? Yeah, just the confirmation that I've ordered it and I'll be in touch. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from there. The order page is very simple. And people have said, yeah, it looks very much like the Tesla page. I'm thinking, why not? I mean, Tesla's done a great job. Why not copy something that's working well, right? I would be too. So, yeah, if it works, don't fix it. It's good. Let's move on with a few other stories, gents. Look at this one. This is Cybertruck spotted charging in Melbourne, Florida. Okay, Florida in the US. If only. Got you there, didn't I? But look, it's charging on the looks like probably V2 or V3 supercharger in the US. What do you think, gents? Pretty slick.
Very cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Just a quick correction there, Tom. It's not in Melbourne. It's in Melbourne.
Oh, sorry, Melbourne. I think Kevin can probably correct us on that. He's I saw him earlier. Kevin from Lakeland in Florida.
That's just what I've heard from all Americans. It's like, oh, you're from Melbourne? I'm like, okay, then I'm from Melbourne.
That's good. But I mean, look, that fits in the parking spot pretty well there. In the correct position. It's a Tesla vehicle. Actually, the one thing about the BYD Seal is that the charge port is on the right-hand side. So, yeah, I'm going to annoy a few people charging in the supercharger, aren't I? So, might steer clear of those ones. But yeah, there we go. Melbourne, Florida, supercharger, Tesla, Cybertruck. Good to see. I think we talked about this on Saturday, Riz, but just for our audience today. So, Tesla started offering PPF and a wrap service in 7 colors in the last week. So, what do you think about this? Is it overpriced? Is it the right thing to do? Not going to stop selling colors and just sell like bland white, and you can just wrap a vehicle now?
Well, I wonder what their wrap shop looks like, because if it's an extension of their standard service shops, then it might take them a while to wrap. But then again, the take up, I don't even think they expect it to be very high. But then again, Americans love modifying their cars. It's a big thing. Just like, we used to modify Japanese cars once upon a time. So maybe it's something that, people are quite interested in, and it may be a big trend. I'm not sure what it's like driving cars in snow and other icy conditions, whether it damages the paint, and if so, then this PPF may help with that, and the cost of that might be, acceptable. So yeah, would love to see more colors though.
Yeah, that's right. And there's some comments around, is this overpriced? I think I forgot how much it was. I think 5,000 US, maybe more.
Yeah,
7,000.
7,000. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's quite a lot of money. It's more like 12,000 Aussie. But here's Sawyer showing us that it's actually pretty good. It's like a urethane-based color PPF. They wrap it all the way around inside the door there, so they do a pretty thorough job. So it's not in Australia yet, but we shall see, hey, compared to Aussie prices if it does eventually arrive here. We've got Paul saying that Melbourne, Florida was actually named after Melbourne, Australia, gents. So they should be pronouncing it the same way we do. What's going on?
I'm just going to make sure I correct every American that I now speak to.
It's Melbourne.
Melbourne, mate. Sticking with Tesla news, so Tesla has just produced its 20 millionth 4680 battery cell coming out of the Austin, Texas factory. But many are missing the growth behind these numbers. January 2022, 1 million cells produced. And then in the next sort of 18 months, 9 million additional. And then 3 months after that, 10 million additional. So huge exponential growth there for Tesla battery cells in the last few months, or last few years rather. Very impressive. And I'll share this one here closer to home. So this is Rob from City EV showing Australia's newest supercharger site, looking like it's about to be commissioned pretty soon. This is in Yass in New South Wales, which is on the Hume Freeway. I think I can see how many 10 stalls, probably more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stalls. Okay. Yeah, amazing. And this is probably part of the New South Wales funding round as well. So hopefully they'll be open to non-Tesla EVs as well. Yass is a very important point between sort of the Canberra turnoff and Gundagai. So good to have more chargers along the Hume Freeway between Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, I think all charging infrastructure providers are putting in new chargers. I mean, you look at this 12 stalls. Obviously, Tesla and the other charging infrastructure providers get all the data as well as to how busy the sites are. But kind of thinking if the growth and the adoption of EVs in Australia is now going to go exponential in the next sort of couple of years, we've got to set a minimum standard of how many bays you have. And I think 12's a great sort of number to kick that off with. I think, over that long weekend in September, October, we did hear obviously people having some delays at Tesla chargers at Port Macquarie and at Coffs Harbour as well. So this is going to go a long way in helping solve those holiday charging delays as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nothing beats a Tesla supercharger site. Having driven the Polestar to Melbourne, it's heartbreaking to see when a charger is broken or, if it's being throttled for whatever reason from 350 to 50. Like, obviously, the Tesla network is second to none at the moment. Greg makes a good point. Where is the CHAdeMO charger? And where are the AC backups that the New South Wales government guys were promising when we had them on the stream? So, I don't know. I guess we'll have to go and check out this site if it is indeed funded by New South Wales government. Here's a good point here. Sanvi says, not sure if you guys discussed this. The stock or inventory Model 3s have had a price drop in Australia. I think 6% in the inventory page. So there you go, price drop again for Tesla Model 3. It's good. Speaking of which, Riz, we might discuss your graph here. Let's just put this one real quick. So this is used Tesla Model 3 listings have sort of decreased in the last couple of months.
Yeah, things are starting to come down. I think it's the lack of some of the newer stock, and given people can't really order the vehicles unless they want a Highland, especially if they're going through the configurator, because not everyone knows about the inventory that Tesla has. So, us in the community, we may know a bit about it, but yeah, people are looking at the used options from what it looks like and picking them up, and it's not being replenished as quickly. So it's come under sort of 500 listings, which is the last time it happened was in September last year. That's when it went past 500 Model 3s listed as people were starting to receive their Model Y deliveries. So people were upgrading from, their Model 3s into a more family-friendly Model Y. But now both cars are available. Obviously, there's a bit of a supply shortage. And it's going to be interesting to see whether this trend continues to go downwards over the next couple of months before Christmas, or whether there's a bit of a spike. But I'd say it would continue to trend downwards for a bit.
You expect this to go up once people actually see the Highland Model 3, people start to see the Seal in stock? What will happen, Riz?
Yeah, I think that would be the case, that people need to see it. Like, a lot of people are just not sure with their 2 or 3 year old Model 3s whether they would upgrade to a Highland if the car is working all right and there's no issues with their current model. They want to go and see how much of a difference it is. And we know, generally speaking, when people get to see it, touch it, feel it, and drive it, and if they can see like noticeable differences, then they would, more than likely place an order on one and then decide to sell their car and help bring some of the used vehicles prices down. The cheapest Model 3 I've seen is just under $40,000 at the moment on the private market. So that car I think has nearly 100,000 kilometers on it. So it's a 2019 model vehicle. So that means that they're still holding their value pretty well, given some people in some states were able to get a base Model 3 over the last couple of years for sort of around about $60,000. And yeah, they seem to be holding values. So we'll see. But if the number of listers keep coming down, it means that there's less stock, less competition, means the prices remain sort of high.
Yeah, I mean, I was when I priced my Model 3 for sale, I made sure it was still cheaper than an inventory Model 3 minus the New South Wales rebate. So that was kind of how I thought about it. Yeah, I personally think it'll probably rise once people see their orders. I think people are probably holding onto their cars because they need it, but once their deliveries come in, once they can test drive the Highland, once they can test drive other vehicles, then that probably will go up as people turn over their vehicles. Question from Greg. I'm hearing reports from the UK, Europe that resale prices have tanked. No one wants a secondhand EV. I mean, is that true?
It's probably true because we're still early in the phase. Most people still have, people we know in our circles that don't drive EVs come to us, and how long do the batteries last? And that's the common questions that people need answered. So I think people are still a bit skeptical and aren't sure about the batteries in EVs, which means that they think they'll need to replace it, like they replace engines in their vehicles, which nobody really speaks about, but
Or
that's
gearboxes?
okay. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
cheap either.
So I think this is exactly it, and people are still not too sure about what needs to happen. But I think there needs to be more manufacturer-based and government-based education campaigns to educate people that buying a used EV is actually probably a safer option than buying a used internal combustion engine car. But it might take a couple of years for people to really realize.
Yep, I think so too.
I think prices have probably even stabilized rather than tanked, I would say. And I think we're going to find the same thing here in Australia as well. There's going to come a time, once EVs are generating more sales, that secondhand EV car markets are just going to have a sort of baseline. I'm guessing that they're going to sort of stay at, if all cars are being sold as electric vehicles, let's say by 2030 or so, you have a healthy secondhand EV car market as well for people wanting to buy, say, a second car, a third car, or a car for their kids or for their teenagers. Yeah.
Yep. And we know that, the general consensus is that EVs will probably degrade, there's no doubt, and they'll plateau at about 10%, after 10 years maybe. We've seen millions of miles driven on cars overseas, and the battery seems to be going okay. And the replacement battery is actually not that expensive. So I've seen stuff online where I think invoice for $15,000-$20,000 for a new battery in your car. As we said earlier, internal combustion engine parts aren't cheap either over the length of a vehicle. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't seen that many battery replacement stories, guys, online that I've unless you've come across any. No?
Not in recent years, particularly as the battery technology and the thermal management systems improve. I'm just surprised at the amount of Teslas running around in the country. We've got, over 60,000 of them. And, what we hear, and how easy it is where people really jump onto socials as soon as they see that there's something wrong. And we just rarely see that. So, it's going to be quite interesting to see. And as more and more of those stories, what are the reliability issues around Teslas start to emerge over the coming years, which I don't think there'll be too many, people will gain the confidence to say, well, if everyone else is driving it, and by that stage we may have 100,000 Teslas driving around, then, they're not broken down on the side of the road, so they must be okay.
Exactly. 100,000 is a pretty good sample size. 4 battery fires in 10 years, and some of them aren't even actually in the vehicle. So, pretty good stats, I think, overall. Scotty makes a good point. 3 to 5 years when novated leases hit the markets. That's true, actually. And that's no one talks about that. Most people keep their cars for that length of time when they salary sacrifice. So we'll see a lot of these secondhand vehicles that still have pretty good range in a few years' time.
Mhm.
Of course, good car. Yep, good car company bringing in secondhand EVs, of course. Any car loses heaps of value if you flip it in a few years' time. Yeah, that's true, Greg. Any vehicle for that matter, not just Tesla. Yep.
And I think Tesla also mentioned that they would be looking at doing, or there would be a battery in the market in the next few years that would be capable of doing 1 million miles, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, once you've got that under your belt, I mean, if you're only going to do 10,000 kilometers or so a year, or even 20,000, you do the math. Yeah, that car is going to well last you more than 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks everyone. 223 viewers. That's fantastic. I'm very encouraged by that. So thanks for joining us on the back of Chris Vanderstock this evening, talking to us about his win in the landmark High Court ruling about Victoria's controversial tax policies. So thanks, Chris. Hope you're celebrating well into the night with Kath and everyone else in the legal team too. I want to show you guys this picture was sent by one of our viewers, actually. I won't say who it is unless they mention it on the live chat here. But this is a pretty cool street pole charger installed by Jet Charge, I think, and run by ChargeFox now in North Bondi and Sydney. The cable is BYO, but I think there's a whole string of these chargers on one of these streets in Bondi. And Rahul, you don't have off-street parking, so this is the kind of thing you'd love in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, so good to see. And I do believe I have spoken to Marybeck Council, which is my local council, and that ZLEV grant that the Victorian government was looking at. I think Marybeck Council are looking at being part of that trial run where they're going to have electric chargers on the electricity poles in the street. So I'm hoping one of these pops up close to us. But yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for using existing infrastructure to complement charging for EV cars, especially for people like, say, me, who don't have off-street parking.
Yeah, this is definitely the sort of solution we need for apartment dwellers, people without off-street parking. A lot of places in the inner city in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, people don't have garages or carports, so this makes complete sense. You got to find a parking spot anywhere every night. So if you've got an EV charger nearby, it just makes life a lot easier. And thanks, Louise. Louise Morton actually said it was her that showed me these photos. So thanks, Louise. If anyone sees any more interesting charging points like this around your neighborhood, send me an email. I'm happy to post these always on the live stream, so very much appreciated. I'll go check these out as well sometime in the time I don't have. But it's good. Thank you very much, Louise, for that. It looks like they're only 7 kilowatts, and any car can park there. Any EV, for that matter, can charge there as well. So that's cool. And I think parking meter box, Gaffer. Yeah, good point. It's North Bondi, so it probably is paid parking. Yeah, it's a busy area. It would be good if 2 cars could charge off the one pole, but good solution though. Yep. Yeah, Greg says shame they can't use the tree, but there are other solutions like EVX can actually shove like a retrofitted box onto any pole, tree, whatever, that's safe. Whereas these are sort of ground up, so to speak. They're sort of embedded in the pole. So there's different solutions around a problem like this. And speaking of Sydney, sort of street charging, this is posted by Councillor William Chan. They've installed 9 new on-street electric vehicle chargers around the city of Sydney. So more homework for me. I'm going to have to go check them out. This is the map of the city of Sydney Council, and there's some more street pole-mounted chargers located around the area too. So there you go. Thank you very much, City of Sydney. And Chewy says definitely need a 7-meter Type 2 cable for BYDs out there having the charge port on the right side. That's a good point, actually. So get a longer cable so it can stretch around your vehicle. Jeff watched those parking inspectors trip over. Actually, that makes a good point. We sort of talked about this last week, I think, about cables for people using off-street charging, like stringing out from their home, I guess it's not across the sidewalk or footpath. This is sort of still between the car and the pole, so probably not as big a hazard as sort of stringing it across where people walk. So slightly less dangerous, I guess, or less hazardous. Any signs for Evee only? I don't know, Oliver. I'll have to go check them out, of course. And back on the point of the wrong side of the car, yeah, just park the other way. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what the rules are around having to face the direction of the street. Don't know. Can you park a car the wrong way around in the street? I'll have to look that up, actually. Don't know. All right, so just finishing up last few stories. So another big battery project in Melbourne, CBD, has gained federal environmental approval. So we need more of these battery farms for when the sun doesn't shine at night, of course. And also, this is Sawyer saying that Car Buyer UK has named Tesla Model Y the best company car for 2024. So good to hear. Oh, Gaffer saying it is illegal to park the wrong way around, so we don't condone that on the channel. Cool. And what else can we share? So that's pretty much it, guys. Yeah, what a show, huh? We've had a lot to discuss. As always, we had Chris on. We had, of course, Riz sharing his experience last night at BYD with the stream. We've had a few news stories. Lots going on, gents, in the EV world, as always.
Never stops.
We keep charging. That's right. Anything else you want to add before we sign off? Nope, all good.
All good. Oh, actually,
good.
one thing. For those with deep pockets, tomorrow, Hyundai Ioniq 5N can be ordered. So it's not that chook raffle that they had a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, you can actually order a car and with deliveries in Q1 2024. And I believe that car is $100,000 plus on roads. So yeah, anyone that's interested, check it out. I think Tom, you would have covered it in the Melbourne EV show walk around that you did when you were down there, and yeah, it looks cool, but it's a lot of money. So anyone that's looking for a spare track day SUV, which you can drop the kids off in and go to church on Sunday mornings, $100,000+. Keep an eye out on Hyundai's website tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got some deep-pocketed viewers on the stream here. So anyone buying one, let me know. I'll come around to your place and we'll take it to the track for a spin. No problem. Yeah, Sanvi's saying, super glad the Seal is cheap. Yeah, I mean, it's a good price. It's good. Greg's saying, just booked a Model Y for USA trip next week. Fantastic. $300 a week. Whoa, that is cheap. All with insurance. My goodness. That's so good. Good value. Gosh. Rahul, anything you want to add before we sign off?
I was going to say a couple of things. I've just seen GWM Aura in my area. I see a lot of BYD out of threes. Saw the new MG4 electric. I was at the Brunswick EV hub and they needed some help charging. Saw the Hyundai Ioniq 5s. Seen the Kia as well. So yeah, and obviously, you know, loads and loads of Tesla Model 3s and Model Ys as well. So yeah, heaps of EVs in this area, and more to come as well. And just on another note, BMW have now signed up to the NACS set up by Tesla, so another domino to fall in the US.
Yep, in the US. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see, right? Makes sense with the world's most reliable and popular network at the moment for EV charging. Let's take a few comments from the crowd. So yeah, Paul says, thanks, folks. Thanks, Chris, as well. Again, many thanks to Chris for joining us, helping to clarify the Australian Constitution. Scotty said, Hyundai lost our sale to Model Y thanks to the chook raffle. And Gaffer's been seeing a few Polestars around Nashville, aka Wollongong, New South Wales. Haven't seen them in a while. They're everywhere, actually. Scotty's saying he wants a Seal over the Ioniq 5. And there we go. Lots of comments. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I'll put Chris's links in the video description below, his Ko-fi link as well as his Patreon link. So go and support Chris. Send him a thanks. If you see him on the street in Melbourne, shake his hand. Thank him for what he's done. It's a great effort. And I'm sure he'll be a very busy man in the next coming days answering media phone calls. So, yeah. Be nice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Riz and I will be back on Saturday morning as usual, 8 a.m. to do our usual Saturday extra. And Rahul, we'll see you next Wednesday as always. So thanks, everyone. And thanks for all your questions and comments. And yes, Gaffer says hit the like button. I'd actually appreciate that. That'd be great. Keep the engagement up. Keep the algorithm happy. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care and happy charging. Bye now.